Let's talk about your immune system. But, not in some dry textbook way. I want you to think about it like a real organized army. I'm talking a full-on cellular military with recruits, training academies, special forces, the whole shebang. So let's dive right in and see how this army actually gets built from the ground up. Okay, take a look at this. It might seem like something out of a sci-fi movie, right? But it's not. This is a real, magnified view of the blood vessels inside one of your own lymph nodes. It's this incredibly complex, bustling world where battles against invaders are going on right now, 24/7, completely without you even knowing it. So, if that's the battlefield, where do all the soldiers actually come from? I mean, are they all the same, or are there different types? The answer is, well, it's actually way simpler, and at the same time, way more amazing than you'd probably guess. It all kicks off from one single point, just one, an ultimate recruit, if you will. This one cell is the ancestor, the starting point, for every single defender your body will ever create. All right, say hello to the hematopoietic stem cell, or just HSC for short. This is our master recruit. Now that name sounds super complicated, right? But hematopoiesis, it's just a fancy word for the process of making all your blood cells. And this little guy is the master of it all because it has two superpowers. First, it can self-renew, meaning it makes perfect copies of itself so you never, ever run out. And second, it can differentiate, which basically means it can transform into any specialized soldier in the entire immune army. Whoa, okay, now look at this. The key thing here is just the sheer complexity. Don't get bogged down trying to read every single name, just take in the big picture. Every single one of these different cells, I mean, from the cells that carry oxygen around your body to the ones that literally hunt down viruses, they all start as that one single HSC at the very top. It's like an entire military org chart, and it all comes from one single recruit. It's wild. Okay, so what happens next? Well, every new cell has to make its first big decision. Right after it leaves that stem cell stage, it hits a fork in the road, and it has to commit to one of two totally different training paths. And that choice is between two main branches, the myeloid lineage and the lymphoid lineage. Think of it like this. The myeloid guys are your innate system's first responders. They're like the grunts on the front line, born ready to fight, super fast, super aggressive, and they'll attack any bad guy they see on sight. The lymphoid cells, on the other hand, they're the adaptive system's special forces. They need to be trained, to recognize a very specific enemy. But once they're trained, their attack is incredibly precise, super powerful, and they remember that enemy for life. All right, let's go down that first path. Let's meet the rapid response force. These are the cells that are constantly on patrol, always ready to jump into a fight at a moment's notice. No prior orders needed. First up, we've got the neutrophils. These are the absolute foot soldiers of your immune army. We're talking 50 to 70% of all your circulating white blood cells. So when an infection starts, these guys just swarm the place, gobbling up bacteria and blasting out antimicrobial chemicals. And here's a fun fact. They're so numerous that they're actually the main ingredient in pus. Yeah. Okay, next up, the macrophages. Now, if neutrophils are the foot soldiers, think of macrophages as the heavy-duty cleanup crew. Their name literally means big eater, and that's exactly what they do. They're expert phagocytes, which just means they're pros at engulfing and digesting stuff. And not just invaders, but also our own dead cells and any other junk, keeping that battlefield nice and clean. But wait, some of these first responders have a second job, and it's maybe even more important. Cells like these, the dendritic cells, they act as scouts. So after they capture an enemy, they don't just destroy it. No, they're smarter than that. They break it down, take a little piece of it, a fragment we call an antigen, and they race that intelligence back to headquarters to brief the special forces. This is the critical, crucial link between the two main branches of our immune army. And that briefing brings us perfectly to our second branch, the elite special ops team, the lymphoid lineage. These are the cells that get activated by the intel brought back by the scouts, and when they get activated, they launch a highly specific, super targeted counterattack. Okay, now this slide breaks down a really huge concept into something simple. Let's meet our two main special ops units, B cells and T cells. Think of it this way. B cells are like sentries on the lookout. They can spot a whole, intact enemy just floating by. T cells, though, they're more like intelligence analysts back at base. They can't see the enemy directly out in the field. They need a scout to bring them a piece of the enemy's uniform, a piece of evidence. That scout cell presents that enemy fragment, the antigen, on this special molecular platter, and only then can the T cell go, aha, I recognize that threat. So let's track the career of a B cell. First, it's a sentry. It finds and binds to a specific invader. That gets it noticed for sure, but to really launch a full-scale response, it needs a green light from a T cell that's seen the same intel. Once it gets that confirmation, boom! It undergoes this radical transformation into something called a plasma cell. And a plasma cell has one job and one job only, to become a dedicated weapons factory. And I'm not kidding when I say factory. A single plasma cell can pump out over 1,000 antibody molecules every single second. That's insane! And these antibodies, they're like these highly specific heat-seeking missiles that just flood your system, tagging all the invaders for destruction. Okay, so what about the T cells that gave the green light? Well, they have two main jobs. You've got the CD4+ helper T cells. These are the commanders, the generals. They coordinate the whole adaptive attack, activating B cells, calling in reinforcements. Then you have the CD8+ cytotoxic T cells. These guys are the assassins. Their mission is to hunt down your own body's cells that have gone rogue, cells infected with a virus, and take them out directly. And then there's this really fascinating hybrid cell, the natural killer cell, or NK cell. It actually comes from that special ops lymphoid lineage, but it acts more like a first responder. It doesn't need any orders, it doesn't need intel from scouts, it's just hardwired to recognize and kill any cells that look stressed out or are missing the right I'm a friend ID tags. Okay, so we've met all the different soldiers in our army, but where do they all come from? Where are they trained and deployed? Let's take a look at the actual physical places, the academies and the command centers that make this all happen. The main academy, the central hub, is your bone marrow. This is ground zero. It's the main place where that whole hematopoiesis process happens. In adults, it's where all those master recruit stem cells live. Think of it as the main recruitment center for the entire army. And it's also where our B cells go through their boot camp. T cells, though, they're a special case. The raw T cell recruits leave the bone marrow and travel to this super exclusive elite training ground called the thymus. And here, they go through this absolutely brutal selection process to make sure they can tell friend from foe. And I mean brutal. Over 95% of the candidates don't make it. They're eliminated. Why? Well, either they can't recognize friendly signals, which makes them useless, or even worse, they react too strongly to friendly signals. And that's a mistake that could lead to them attacking your own body. And this finally brings us to the field command centers, your lymph nodes. You've got these scattered all over your body. This is where those scouts, the antigen-presenting cells, bring their intelligence from the front lines. And it's right here that they present that intel to the special forces, the T cells and B cells, that are constantly passing through, just waiting for a mission. This is where the whole counterattack is planned and kicked off. So let's just pause for a second. After seeing all of this incredible complexity, the foot soldiers, the scouts, the commanders, the assassins, the training academies, the command centers, we come right back to the most mind-blowing fact of all. This whole unbelievably sophisticated, life-saving army, it all comes from just one single type of cell. The entire system, the whole thing, is built on one single crucial principle: the ability to tell self from non-self, friend from foe. But, it's a complicated system, and sometimes it messes up. So the question I want to leave you with is this: what happens when this incredibly powerful army gets confused? What happens when it decides a harmless peanut protein is a deadly threat? Or even worse, what happens when it decides a part of your own body is the enemy?